We've been talking about so many different things, mostly concentrated, introduce you to different artists, masters. We talk a lot about composition, visual communication. So I kept thinking about what we're going to do with this lecture. And so I just figured out probably we go to the very rudimentary things. And but this very rudimentary thing that we tend to take for granted, okay? Because we're visual artists, so seeing is very important to us, okay? We're not only seeing, we try to recreate something. So you share your seeing with other people. Okay, that's basically what we do. But what's really involved with seeing? We most time we really take it for granted because we have eyes, we see. But there's a lot of very fascinating factors. So today I'm just gonna, because it's all connected with our creativity as artists. Okay. So we're gonna talk about this, common saying in English: seeing is believing, right? So I put question marks. Really, seeing is believing. Now I would just give a whole bunch of factors. So just raise your awareness. What really involved with this seeing process? Okay, and then when you see it, then you have to recreate it and put them on canvas or paper or make sculpture or photography, however we can to. So, what do we see? Hummingbird, right? Yeah, but how we see things is like how we brought up, right? So you immediately identify, okay, bird and dog, or pipe. Yeah, well. Right? And then they say it's not a pipe. So is that bird? Or is that dog? It's a photograph. It's a recreated image or simulated. It's not a real pipe. It's not real pipe. But how we identify where our conclusion immediately say, okay, that bird, that's dog, the pipe, and then so Margaret did this painting, and then say, sorry, it's not a pipe. Okay, so what's reality? Because when we see, is this real, right? Everybody here is real. Is that reality? Okay, so what we see, so how we define reality? So during the 60s, there's all these different movements, and the most popular, the pop art, right? But this conceptual art. So this is a very good example. This artist made this piece. Okay, it's pretty famous at the time. It's like, so basically talking about reality. What reality is. So you have chairs, chair, or chairs. There's three different ways. One is actual chair, right? Just right there on the floor. That's chair. And then one is a photographic image of that very same chair. Okay? So that's a simulation of the chair, or the copy, or the illusion, right? Then you have a dictionary definition, chair. So So they really just very clearly to tell you the separation. Okay, what is real, what is not real. But if we don't have the chair sitting there, just the photographic chair, you say, oh, that's reality, that's a chair. Because exactly same location. Right? But it's illusion because it's not three-dimensional anymore. It's even though have the illusion of the depth, but it's a simulation, it's a copy, it's an image or a photographic image. Of course, if you have definition chair or chairs, you close your eyes, anything based on your prior life experience, any chair can be included. Right? So it's not that particular chair anymore, but it can be any chair that you know or being recorded in your brain. Okay? So this piece is very kind of, that's what is conceptual part. Cheryl, you can sit, there's more chair there, next to Harriet. Yeah. So what is actual illusion? Conceptual. Reality, right? You first glance and say, okay, yeah. But then you look again. Okay, so, but you immediately identify the image because your brain tells you that's what it is. But then you look carefully, then you say, wait a minute. I cannot remember, but a lot of times you have to understand a lot of those images created is in the early 20th century. Since, Freud's idea about, the psychology, perceptions, and all of a sudden people start studying. Yeah. A lot of things we call illusion. What is illusion? Or how our judgments, reasoning for certain images. Okay? Because a lot of times you think what you see, but you look carefully. Yes?
By Roger Shepard.
Okay.
It's called the Shepard elephant.
Shepard elephant. What is time period?
It is
20s, 30s?
yes. Wait, give me a second.
Yeah, nowadays we can just immediately find where it's come from. Yeah.
He published it in 1990. Oh, so
Published that one, 1990. But you understand, but don't forget, in the Bauhaus, and they study how all the design principles. So a lot of things all connected. But this concept is not really new. So these are basically the same, it's the impossible, right? Is that reality? Is that illusion? But a lot of time you look at this, it can be real. So now, how's your brain looking at it? So is this,
upstairs or down.
you're right, it's going up or going down?
Yep. It is coming down because it's got the edges there. Yes. What? I don't know. The position of the phone.
It could be, yes. But how your brain, you see here, so what is reality? Is up or down? Okay. Of course, a lot of times we just look at it, okay, we decide that what it is, and then we don't look any further. But a lot of times it's kind of tricky that. So which one is the long line? Which one is short line? Which one's the longest line? Which is shortest line? Yeah, they're all the same. Of course, we know, but there's a lot of. But sometimes our brain look at it and say. But first glance, you look at the middle one, it's the longest one. Okay? So they just tricked you how your decision making, how your conclusion. That just. Do you see the curvature? Okay? But it's not curved. So what is the reality? But that's what we see, right? But yet, when you look at it, you say, oh, wait a minute. It's much more than that. Do you see that sphere? Do you see that round protruding? Right? Of course, 60s, they call it optical arts, the op arts. A lot of people play this kind of thing. But you say, which one is truth? Is reality the truth? Really the true story? Okay? So a lot of times, in my color class, we just did a color interaction. I put two colors next to each other, and people say, no, they're different. But then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I cannot believe they're identical. But because they surrounded their site by, different colors, and then they appear to be. So what you see, how you identify them, is much more complicated. Which one's bigger? Right? So reality versus what do you see? Now this one even, wait, that one definitely bigger, the orange one. MC Escher, okay, MC Escher, so create this kind of a impossible, but when you first glance at it, yeah, it's kind of interesting architectural structure, but then you look at the water, where the water come from, which story you count it, all of a sudden you say, wait a minute. Something's off, right? But a lot of time we, rush into but these are all called his puzzle image.
But you wanted to say, finish the sentence.
Yeah.
You rush into a conclusion.
Conclusion, yes. But a lot of times how our process is, it's a thing stored in your hard drive, your brain, okay? So that's how we see something immediately, you process in your brain, and then you conclude it. But a lot of times, most time, we conclude it so fast. We don't really give us, so concave, convex, these are Roman areas, they use, they use the mosaic. A lot of times you say which side is, so this is a lot of these things. It's concave and convex, and which side is up, which side is down, how you look at it. Of course, when you have wallpaper like that, you feel dizzy. Do you look at this, a green one and the blue one, do you see what do you see? It's moving. Do you see how the optical illusion created? Do you see it move? Especially you move your head and then you look at it again. You can see it become kinetic. But it's a still.
Does it help if you squint in that?
You squint, probably it will stop.
Yeah, it does.
But do you see here reality? So what is reality? Okay, but a lot of times, of course, the shadow, the change of the circular shape, it really create that kind of and then the fascinating thing is your brain almost like how your perception, this is moving, it's rolling, but actually it's not.
I think I'd prefer your friend's bathroom to this.
Well, then the friend will never come out. Probably pass out. Yes. But it's fascinating how we see things, but a lot of time we don't. We make decision is assumption. Okay.
I see the forms and I see the colors.
Yeah.
That's all very interesting.
Yeah.
But why is it art?
Well, I'm not saying it's art.
Okay.
But when you go check the 1960s, when they have the op art, but there's a lot of things like this. Here not necessarily it's art, but a lot of times psychiatrists and psychologists use this. just say, okay, what do you see? Can you see these things? I'm not saying really, but Arthur, really hard to define. Nowadays I say, okay, what is art? Can anybody give me the definition, art?
Whatever you think it is.
You're right. So I remember when I came to this country, and then my teachers we have the seminar and the discussion. So what is art? So I just told him, I say, art is, I thought I knew, and then now I don't. That's art.
Yeah.
Almost like more you learn. So like here, these dots, what do you see?
You squint, I see it. I see the face.
Okay, so, but when you squint your eye, squint,
Yeah, then I see it.
okay?
If I don't squint,
You don't squint, you don't, yeah,
jaw, yeah.
okay, you're right. Squint your eye, you can see it, but it's just dots, right?
And lighter.
Here we go. But sometimes you see, sometimes you don't see. Sometimes you think you see. Sometimes you think you don't see. Okay, the difference, I keep telling my beginning class, or the foundation class. I say, okay, looking and the seeing. Looking and the seeing. We look constantly, but we don't really see. We not always see as much as we look. Because as soon as, even in the dream, probably your mind's eye is still looking. There's images, even though your eye closed. Right? You still see images. So looking at the scene, I just want to, raise your awareness. So basically, scientifically, there are 3 stages. Oh, Sheila.
Hi.
Good to see you.
I got so lost.
There's one chair right there.
I got so lost. I've been here for a while.
Yeah. Sheila, well, yeah. Sheila, Cheryl votes for you that whatever that thing.
Oh,
Good to see you, Sheila. It's okay. You don't have to. Yeah. So scientifically, there's like 3 stages. So first stage is sensation. So basically, you just open your eye is the receiver. So your retina will take the image in. That's stage 1. So stage 2, perception. Okay? So how you do your image, you go into your brain, you process it. Okay? But a lot of the process, you have to understand the image you saw and go back to brain, mix with your pre-existing images. So that's the process. And then the cognition. Okay? So where the cognition is the reasoning part, it's concluding part. Okay? It's, decision parts. So you decide what that is. Well, what do you see? You have to go through. But a lot of time, we're looking at millions images. But you maybe only see a few. Because a lot of it just not going into your consciousness. So you're not seeing. Okay? You have to receive the image. A lot of time it's just sensation part. Didn't even go to your perception. Okay? When you don't go to your brain, it's not registered. Only when it go to your brain, you process it, you have this decision, reasoning, finally conclude. Then that completed, then the image actually will store in your hard drive, which is the brain.
So do you think because of social media,
Yeah.
we are all
You're right.
over sensitized?
Yeah, absolutely. Because what do? You have a social media, you scroll. You only stop. Something catch your eye. Okay? Just like you go to a museum. You walk in, oh my God, overwhelming. There's so many artworks, but you glance. Okay? So glance is initial looking. And then you stop. But when you stop, it means that looking is deeper because there's something got you. Then you stop, then you look into it. Then you start this process. Okay? But how many times you do that? probably among thousands images, you just stop in one or two. And then you really look into, so that you remember. A lot of things you just don't. When you're driving, there are a lot of things going by. You're looking. You have to. So you won't hit anybody. You won't cause an accident. But you don't remember anything, or a lot of things. You only remember when the car immediately stopped, you almost hit it. Then you see what car it is, you may remember the license plate.
But the perception is because it's based on pre-existing experience.
Absolutely,
we
you have
will
to.
Then also choose what we see.
You're right. And then how you identify it.
Yeah.
Because that's you know, you see hummingbird. You say, okay, because I see hummingbird before. It's already there, registered. Or the Pomeranian, right? You not only know it's a species of dog, you know which species is.
So the advertising companies have a problem in social media because they can only appeal to people who have this condition already of preconceiving.
Yes,
certain
but sometimes they will see if they target the boomers, right? They will find something nostalgia. They will let you, because then you have things already registered here. Then you connect. Okay? Then you respond. Well, if they target the Zoomers, which is Gen Z, then it's different. Those people, their process is much different. Okay, you have to see how our brain almost like evolved, whatever. But it's different process. They're much quicker. Okay? But they don't stay too long. So I think their memory bank is shallower than the older people, you know. And then our next generation probably even, because there's just so much going on. Before, boomers, you know, when the TV just started, wow, right? Earlier, you know, motion picture and TV. Now your TV's in your pocket. You know, you just pull it out like Barbara just did. Tell where this thing come from. Who made it?
There's a book called The Shallows by Nicholas Carr.
Yeah.
He talks about how our brains are becoming like more lateral and less deep.
You're right. Well, that's a scary thing, right? Then you say that's evolution, what? Devolve or evolved. Now we go to this famous image. Okay, so in my beginning class, I always talk about, you know, how you see things, right? So I just try to say how your cognition work, right? So when you look at it, so what do you see? It's an old lady, right, with a big chin, with a big nose. And the young lady with a hat. So which one is? Of course, people say, wait. What are you talking about? I don't see it. Of course you don't see it because what happened? What happened? Your cognition. Once your cognition made a decision. Okay, that's it. Cognition's locked. You cannot see anything else unless you totally wiped out what you see first.
Can you point out the old lady?
Her mouth is the line that's going through the skull.
Where's my ruler?
The line of the chin is
Yeah, but people say, oh my God, is there something wrong with, I just see a lot of guys say, I would just see that pretty girl. So eyelash, nose, mouth, chin, right? Okay, and then the other one is profile, the chin line, the ear, one eyelash, the nose right in here. You see the necklace?
Right. Does it have anything to do with like left brain or right brain?
No. It just, because we all different. So whatever you kind of sync with this, you process it, right? But cognition is a funny thing. Once you make a decision, that's it. But a lot of time we make a wrong decision. We all have that in our life, right? You buy something, you say, I just want it, you know. And then 2 days later, you have buyer's regret. Okay, but a lot of times that's why doctors say, well, seeking second opinion, maybe third opinion, because which is tell you to unlock your cognition. Otherwise, if it's locked, so that's why I keep saying, during the critique or whatever, I say suspension of cognition, which is you create some image, good artwork, sometimes you just cannot figure it out. That's a good thing because the artists know how to trick you to not making a cognitive decision. Okay? Then what happened? Then you continue, linger, you watch, you look into it. So you wanted that cognition to suspend it, not dropping down. When they drop down, then that's it. It's hard to change. Okay? But now, creative people, they say, you try to know, lock and unlock. Then you can see two images. But you cannot really see it simultaneous.
But it's not like we're supposed to paint two images in every painting we do.
Well,
What we do is not paint an apple like an apple, but we paint an apple like...
well, good. See, Angelica and I, we're going to talk about Apple's story later. So someone made a cartoon, right? So can I see your ID? Oh, never mind. Oh, wait. But at least this guy knows how to lock and unlock, right? So you had to make sure you. But that's a funny thing. But so how we see. We look at it and say, okay, reality, not reality, because what is reality? Is that old lady the reality, the young girl's illusion, or vice versa? But we have to know what reality is. But the way we brought up everything, your mom or your dad take you out. You say, what is this flower? And then you go to the museum and you go take a picture. What is this? Oh, that's flower. But sometimes you have this blur. What is actual flower? What is illusion of the flower? Okay. So first, we see dimensions, right? Because we have two eyes. We hear sound. We can really, the two eyes tell us the distance, the depth, right? But how we portray it, that's how I working. So when you see things, they will arrive to your brain, receive it. There will be slightly delay. Then you know farther and near. Just like you hear sound or voice or music, you have to be, we know, stereo versus mono, right? So that's how I give you this space. Okay, that's how you got to make sure you're aware we do see space. Okay. So a lot of the times they will talk about, is this, how many dimensions? How many dimensions? So if you have a line, that's one dimension. Because you don't really count that width, because that's just so insignificant. So you only count at the length. So that is one dimension. Two dimensions, shapes are two dimensions, right? You got to make sure. And then this is a three dimension. Do you call it shape? It's no longer shape. It's a form. So, but in English we say it doesn't matter what kind of shape and form, but you understand the difference between a shape and a form. Form is three-dimensional. Shapes are two-dimensional. Of course, then we have this linear perspective. When you paint, you're probably more aware. But then the rest of the time, you don't really, how we perceive the distance. Okay? Of course, as artists, the challenge is not only you know the distance, but you know how to convey it. You had to put on canvas, and put on paper, put on, easier to take a photo, but, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But you have to aware this perspective. So, of course, artists really aware, so thousands of years people try to figure out how to perspective work? Susanna? Here. Of course, who systematically get this theory? The Renaissance artists. Okay? Da Vinci and Michelangelo, they really put the theory together. And then you see, of course, this is a typical one that we call one-point perspective. So you see horizon, you see a vanishing point, we call viewpoint 2. So you see the thing going to that point. That's how you can see the poles become shorter and shorter, narrower and narrower, and more close together with, receding back. Okay. Of course, Carl, in the drawing 1 class, we talk a whole lot about perspective. Okay. So these are called one-point perspective. But you can see even, Renaissance era artists already figured out how, but before that, really, they semi-figured out, but it's just not accurate. But now you can see how the line go, right? Do you see the tiles? Then you have a two-point perspective. Yeah, it's a little bit more complicated because then you have two vanishing points. But horizon, your eye level. Eye level is a horizon. So when you sit down, your horizon will lower. When you stand up, your horizon will be higher. You stand on the tabletop, the horizon even higher. So you have to understand all these things, how that work. That's the fundamental. But you got aware, even though you may hate it, Judy, but you have to understand the way, how can you convincingly, right? But it's just awareness, because when you walk in the hallway, nobody pay attention to linear perspective, right? You walk from the sculpture lab there, you get out, you look, the exit door, east side, nobody who pay attention to linear perspective, but it's there. But a lot of time we don't see it. And then there's a 4-point perspective. Those are driving people nuts. But don't forget there's a multi-perspective. I remember when I was a student, we spent 1 year just study the Russian Soviet Union's perspective, how you measure the shadow, how the sun, the angle, roof, the pitch roof, how you, window open, door open, now open 90 degree, what open 30 degree, what happened 35 degree. I mean that's geometry. But okay, so the best perspective, we know this painting. Yeah, but this is the quintessential of understanding of use perspective to show emphasis. Okay, because the viewpoint is right on the face of the Christ. Everything this is one-point perspective, but that is for a purpose. That's for a purpose.
Does your eye generally travel from one direction first to the other?
Sometimes, yes, because the way you read, you're always from left to right. Right? So that become a costume. So when you look at things, you glance, you most likely, but
So the Muslim would do it opposite.
well, Jewish or Chinese, or sometimes they may do differently
Yeah.
because they were from, right to left.
Well, his head is tilted to the right. So I didn't
Michael, you can
sort of
just
direct
sit
your
here.
eyes from right to left.
Yeah, but this is direct your eye to the center. But you look at every single line. It's perfection. Don't forget, okay, when we talk about what do you create a symmetry? What is a symmetry? Why, I keep talking about symmetry. Why people say, I want to paint a symmetrical painting. I say, you be careful because there's already meaning embedded in there. When you look at architecture, that's a typical, what is intent is in there. So what kind of building is symmetrical? What kind of buildings? Architectural structures. cathedral, temple, churches. What else? Governmental. What else? Judicial. Balance. So it's about permanence, forever, stability. That is the purpose. Okay? So when you do a symmetrical like this already have something beyond just a structure. So when you interpret a lot of things, you have to understand what is. Yes, Kathy.
You see all those lines in his perspectives. Is there literature that suggests he drew in all his perspectives before he started fleshing out his paintings?
He did a lot of that.
Old days, like Renaissance artists, they do studies. They do drawing first. They have to figure out everything. And then they start, a lot of their painting, they did drawing on canvas. But this is a fresco they put on the wall. But they do drawing basically.
They do a perspective drawing? Like
They do,
like
exact, yes. But before that, they will do hundreds of sketches. They figure out how to do this.
Got it.
And then they have measured the space, like your canvas size, how you're going to do this. And then they will calculate, and then they will put the things in there. Then they will glaze the paint over it. Yeah, that's a process. Okay, realism. So we know what's real, but then we talk about realism because it's a fascinating phenomenon that how human can do, or ability, or skill, to be. You know this guy. Okay. So, well, of course, he gained his famous, during the 60s, 70s when this.
You got Chuck Close?
Yes. Chuck Close. Well, yeah, but Carl is going to have to do an essay about disabled artists sitting in the wheelchair. So Chuck Close will be his subject. Okay, so the painting is a painting, but you understand painting. Really, this should not categorize as a painting or classify, because painting is colored image. All right? This is basically a drawing. It doesn't matter what media you use. It's oil on canvas. But in essence, it's drawing. What is drawing? Drawing is a non-chromatic media. Okay? It's not a monochromatic. So there's a difference between non-chromatic and monochromatic. Non-chromatic, non means nothing. Chroma means hue. When there's no hue, it's black, white, and gray. Monochromatic is one hue. Understand? So a lot of times people say drawing is monochromatic. No, drawing is non-chromatic. Blue painting is monochromatic. Red painting is monochromatic.
If we draw with color pencil,
It's not non-chromatic. Well, people do, but in essence, painting, the language is color.
Well, that's what they call it, painting with pastels. They don't say drawing with pastels.
You're right. But of course, nowadays, everything's blurred. But anyway, go to a Chuck Close. So what is purpose? Photographic image. Of course, he used a photograph. But you understand, that's what the artists, the hyperrealism or photorealism, they say, we have a 20 feet by 20 feet painting. Okay? So he didn't even call it portrait, he called it big head. He said, that's my big head painting. So what do you see? You see every, hair pores and and the chest here. I mean, but in the really situation, when you look at a person, you don't see those. You never use a magnifying glass, go into people's skin and check how many pores count,
As women, we do in the mirror.
Yeah, but I know sometimes you have to do that enlarged, magnified mirror, not your regular mirror, magnified mirror.
So this original, because it's hard to tell looking at this, the original.
That's why I
black
put
and
him
white.
there. Yeah, it's a black, white, and gray. There's non-chromatic. There's no any color, But you see the scale. I put him in there. Do you see how big is his head?
Yep.
Painted, yeah, he painted. And these, you know this guy named Dwayne Hanson? Okay, so that's life size. And then they put a gallery guard right and this one in the mat. And the gallery guard standing there, so you go there and say, oh, I'm not going to touch the painting, but actually it's a sculpture. Yeah, but okay, so realism, of course, they look like real, but they're not, they're lifeless. Okay, but we see these tourists, absolutely. You know, Fritz Schroeder used to have one under his desk, nude.
Oh, I know. Remember?
That's a painting. And huge. Right? So you do have to have some skill to achieve to that level of, like you can walk into it. So, but what is the purpose? So, okay, what you say, why these people? First, you have to understand the pop art, popular arts era. So we say realism is art for the masses. Because people understand, but how they understand is they identify bacon, ground beef, right? And whatever the package.
The reflection on those fluorescents.
Absolutely. You see the fluorescent light, you see the, yeah.
But you would say, why paint this? Because you could just take a photograph.
Right. But sometimes they say, at the time, probably, if you print a photograph 20 feet by 20 feet, you're probably going to be bankrupt. They cost your arm and leg. But you can paint it.
But do you think that some realism, like Chuck Close, I feel like his stuff is more for like impact, like his like.
Sensational.
Yeah.
Sensory impact. Sensory, stimulation.
And then I think that sometimes when I see realism, I don't know, I think sometimes I'm just like, okay, like it's technically mind-blowing,
Yes,
but
the technique. Yeah, absolutely.
but it's also kind of like you're saying, what is the purpose?
Yeah. But if you see a family, first time in the museum, they're not going to look at the Kunings and the, Hoffman's painting, or they will look and they say, "Oh, great! Just look, it's so real." But I'm not criticizing. I mean, just stop. But that's the part. What is the purpose of Andy Warhol have a whole bunch of Campbell soup cans? So at the beginning of 1980, so Chinese always have the annual painting exhibition. So all of a sudden, they have this annual arts exhibition. I think it's 79. And then they have this gigantic painting called The Father. Okay, they say, okay, that's the peasants, that's the father of all Chinese. But it's basically influenced by Chuck Close. But of course, those shows are sponsored by the Chinese government.
So it's influenced by him
Technically.
because of the size?
The size and then the whatever the portrayal, the super hyper realistic. Yeah. But the Chinese government put that in a very prominent place that you walk in, you see that thing immediately. So because most people would understand it, and then that's what their purpose.
This just reminds me of a story. I was in an art show, dropping off a piece of art. You know my stuff. It's a
Yeah.
paint splatter. Motion.
Yeah.
So I took my 4-year-old grandson to go with me to drop it off. And when we went to drop off, a lot of the other artists had already dropped off in the paintings and there were all these realistic paintings, like one was like a baseball player,
Yeah.
something like that, And he was walking around, and we dropped mine off, and he turned to me and took me aside, and he said, "Buddy, I don't want you to feel bad. Don't feel bad. I want you to, don't feel bad. It's okay."
Here we go.
That basically is it.
Yeah, but that's but you can see how you know, that's how kids really, they're honest. But they will tell you, okay, Nana, you, Grandma, you just, I don't know, I'm feeling like, yeah, look at, in comparison, maybe, Grandma, you go back to art school from the very beginning. Well, just like people tell Van Gogh, say, go back to drawing 101.
I was at a critique last week and I took in one of my neon cactus things. And there's the one guy in the critique, I mean,
Yeah.
he does sculpture and he tries to make it very real and everything. And he just could not get over the colors not matching.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
you're right.
It bothers
Why? This is not real.
They didn't look
Cactus
like the-
cannot be like that.
Yes, that, he really had a hard time.
But that is, you know, that's something I always say. All our art, why humans have art? Why this very significant part of civilization? Why we need art, right? We have food, we can have a shelter, we can live comfortably. Why we need art? We need some satisfaction, we need some fulfillment to our mental.
Well, what it is also each person's perception on life is different. And when we as artists paint that, gives an insight to all of us to understand each other because we are similar and then very different.
Yeah, but when you say understanding, sometimes it can be, how can you understand a creative piece? It doesn't matter, it's visual arts, it's a piece of music and choreography. Understanding, sometimes it's really hard to understand. If we, so like a mathematical equation, do you understand that? Yes, you tell me this, you know, accounting, right? Okay, what do you do this, your budget and your expense and how you balance it. It's understanding, but when you look at the artwork, you say, 1 + 1 = 2, 1, 0. It could be. Well, technically, but you know why government really, you know, put this into some, you know, raise into that kind of a position because it served their purpose.
What are they trying to depict?
Well, that's why when I grew up, you know, we have to go re-educated by the peasants. But that's your root. That's your root. Don't forget your root. All your intellectuals have to be constantly re-educated.
Where they came from.
Yeah, you see these people, how the wrinkles reflect the hard labor. That's what you guys have to do. So you go to the camp.
Just some friends of my parents were visiting, and so the Monet exhibit was at the Museum of Art
Yeah.
in Phoenix, and yeah, it was. My kids were babies, but I remember my father's friend saying, "We paid $15 to see this, and all it was a bunch of dogs." And when you go up close, and his wife, she understood. She goes, "Yeah, but when you stand back, it's beautiful." And
Yeah. But, you know, sometimes it's hard. You know, like, say, classical music. Nowadays, the Zoomers and the Gen Zs, or even the millennials, they don't listen to. Okay? And the poetry. People, you know, how many people read poetry? It's a different way to look at this creative process. You know, sometimes when we watch movie, there's certain fascinating, a lot of it is the story, the narrative, the storyline. But how many people just pay attention to cinematography? Sometimes. A lot of times you just look at the story, just, you know.
Robert, sometimes I think art like this, you don't have to think.
Well, but go back to cognition.
Yeah.
Immediately, you can make your conclusion very quick. But that is our society. We everything's quick. So we won't allow us to have a second look, second thought, right? And then we just rush, really impulsive kind of bang, bang, bang. But that's how our culture is.
Is this oil?
That's oil. Yeah. Yeah. It's huge. It's like, I think it's 12 feet tall, like, you know, 6 feet wide. Not as big as chocolate. I think chocolate is like 12 by 12 or something.
Robert, what's the difference between realism and Trump Lloyd?
Okay, Trompe l'oeil. We're gonna talk about it. So we go back this. You know how maybe if we put a photographic type in there, you know, people will say, that's a pipe. But then you say, it's not a pipe. People can be confused. They will immediately think about,
What is it?
yeah, what is this? Maybe there's something else I don't see. You know?
And you start thinking like, maybe some kind of musical instrument.
You're right.
Like your brain
Yeah.
to go with
Yeah, that's what we call
you
a,
have like
yes. Here we go. But yeah, but we have to address that. But that is, basically translation is fool your eye, but really it's not fool your eyes. Fool your brain, because when you think you think you already process it, and then you think you see, so you already have cognitive conclusion. All right. So what trompe-l'oeil is, it's like urban area. All of a sudden, the guy just walk into the building. There's a big wall. Someone created this beautiful countryside landscape. So you feel like, so refreshing. I'm just crashed into the wall. But you look at it, it's just a wall. And then they paint the side of the building and feel like you're going to a rolling hill. That's amazing. But that's how people trying to purposefully change the urban landscape. Right? Like this. Say, oh my God, it's just abandoned house, warehouse, somewhere in downtown, and some downtown, and this guy did this painting. You look at it and you say, oh my God, this alligator coming. But nowadays, especially in European countries, there are a lot of really good murals. See, like this abandoned warehouse, right? And you say, I'm going to create a space in there. Those are really the trompe-l'oeil, but it's amazing. Technically, these people can't really, but you have to understand the creative process. They really know, they assess the environment, they say, how can I create something fit right in here? So that's a lot of creativity in there. So they create a new reality. Well, quote, quote, reality. It's a simulation of the reality. So simulation is the word that really you have to aware it, right? It's just a boring wall. All of a sudden you're adding the sculptural, but it's flat, but you create this protruding object. But these are pretty creative. See here, this is totally altered the way that how you're decision making, right? Because all of a sudden, wait a minute.